In today's video, I'm going to be talking with you. Shit. I just saw a bee now. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 things you can do to make sure that you are nailing great images every time. Why do you want your pictures to stand out? You want your pictures to stand out because it's a very good skill. Photography is a communication skill, and if you're able to take good pictures, you'll be able to tell stories, and you all know storytelling moves the world. Another reason is that, especially if you do this commercially, you want to be able to nail your next client, right? You want people to look for you to be able to provide the service of photography. Now, the first one is something that may seem very, very ridiculous and very trivial, but quite often is one of the common reasons why you're not getting really great images. And the first one is clean your lens. I've had situations whereby I go out for an event or somebody goes out to shoot like a wedding or an event, and half of the images are hazy. There just seems to be some light diffusion or some smudges or dirt that you see on the images and you just can't get rid of. Why? Because you shot with a dirty lens. This is common even for people who shoot just with their phone cameras, because the phone camera is always in your pocket, and every now and then your hand is always touching, the lens, rubbing on it or something. Maybe you're at an event, or you go out to the field to do some work, or you're just somewhere where you need to take pictures, and then you bring out your camera and the first thing you start doing is just taking pictures. It's very easy to forget, but very simple, and one of the basic things that you can do to just automatically upgrade the quality of the images, and that is just clean your lens. Just make it like an automatic to do or checklist, something that is on your checklist to do anytime you go out to shoot. And this just goes back to the whole idea of maintaining your equipment. Make sure that you're constantly cleaning your cameras, cleaning your lenses. Even if it's your phone camera, just make sure that the lens is always clean. It's very, very common, especially with phone photography, to shoot through dirty lenses and you wonder why your pictures are not looking awesome. That's the first tip. Now, the second tip I will give is, if you can master this, it will really, really set you apart and really, really take your images to the next level. And that is, work on your composition and your framing. One of the most common mistakes that beginner photographers make, or photographers who are not evolving or growing, is that they just point and shoot. They just point at a scene and they just begin to shoot. So whether it is at a wedding or at an event, or even if it's just somebody at a park who just says, hey, could you help us take a couple of pictures of our party or just a couple of portraits, you need to pay attention to how you compose and frame your images. You need to learn about the rule of thirds. Place the object of interest or the subject of interest in the rule of thirds. So it's either you're placing that subject in one of the thirds of the screen, or the intersection between one of the thirds, or even if you're not going to follow the rule of thirds and you want to break that rule, or use another rule and just place your subject directly in the center. Don't leave too much headroom between the top and the head of the person. And if you're taking a group of people, make sure everybody is well positioned and balanced in the frame. If you're taking an object like a flower or an item on a table, try to make sure that you're placing that person or that object, in a place that makes sense. And one way I wrap my head around this, which reminds me of a rule that you must have in mind in photography, is that every photograph should tell a story. For every time you raise your camera to point at something, what is the main subject that you're trying to capture? What is the main story or the main subject? Is it a person? If it's a person, make sure that person dominates the frame. Make sure that person stands out. Remove every distracting element, because that's one other thing about framing and composition. A lot of times there are too many things in the frame that distract from the main thing. So if it's a person or a portrait, try to eliminate as much in the background as possible. If you're out taking pictures in nature, try to make sure that the flower or the scene that you're trying to capture is well positioned in such a way that it is the main thing in that story. If it's a still life image or something, try to make sure that that person or that image is well positioned and well framed in such a way that it's telling the main story. The good thing about framing and composition is that you must try to get it right in camera, first of all, but even if you do not get it right, you can always correct it in post when you're cropping. So also learn the art of cropping. Learn how to crop images well. Learn how to position things well. If you didn't nail the rule of thirds in your framing when you're taking a picture, you can nail it, you can get it right in post. So try to make sure that every image, you go through every image and review, cut off things that are not necessary, make the subject of the picture stand out. Make sure that there is a subject. If you see too many things, decide on which one you think should be the subject. Having that at the back of your mind before you even take a shot helps you even in terms of your focus, in terms of the depth of field, and all of those things that you bring into consideration when you're taking pictures. Every image should have a subject. Every image should have a story, a main character. In that frame, there must be a main character. And another quick tip that is related to framing and composition is how you balance the horizon in your image. As a general rule, this is the rule I follow. For wide shots, for shots that tell the story of a scene, any shot that is not a close-up shot, try to make sure that the horizon is level, it's not tilted. Right, so it's either you're looking at the horizon, it should be level, or any vertical line like the edge of a wall, it should be properly vertical, it should be 90 degrees to the horizon. Okay, so one common mistake I see a lot of photographers make is that when you look at it, the image is sort of tilted. There's nothing that pisses me off more than that. I just feel so irritated when I see a picture that should be level, slightly tilted. You know, I see maybe a pole or a pillar in the image looking a bit tilted. Or the horizon in the background looking a bit tilted. The only situations where I think it is visually pleasing to have tilting, or when you want to use that style of turning the image at an angle or tilting, is in close-up shots. And I'll show you an example. So if you're at a party, you want to take a dynamic shot, something that just looks a little bit, dramatic or interesting, engaging, you can tilt the camera. If you're taking an image of a ring on a table, or you're taking an image of a flower that is close up, you can tilt the camera, just because you're trying to give a unique perspective or something. But if you're taking a picture of a horizon, any picture that has a wide shot that has a horizon or landscape, you want to try to make sure it's level. It just looks much more pleasing. It just looks better. That is the way we see things with our eyes. We're not always turning our head like this to look around and look at things, right? You don't always turn your head around to look around. Your head is always level. When you turn your head, everywhere you turn, you're looking at things level. And so that should be the way it looks when you take your picture. So very important tip. Try to make sure that you're framing your picture well, you're composing your picture well. Keep it simple. Less is more in framing and composition. Every frame, every image should have a main character, main subject, main story that you're trying to tell. Then the level of your pictures will improve. One other tip I'll give, especially for people who take pictures at events or in nature, landscape, weddings, is try to shoot at different angles. I've seen photographers who, they're always doing the same thing all the time. It just makes for boring pictures that don't really stand out. Try to think about shooting every frame in at least 2 different angles. So if you're taking a picture of a group of people, take it at their level, but then see if you could also crouch a little bit, take it at a different angle. Try to be creative. Just don't try to do things the same way all the time. And I think if you try to do that, you find that your pictures are improving and people will begin to say, wow, this person really takes good pictures. If you're out in the field, maybe taking pictures at a facility, a hospital or a building, architectural photos or something, try to change the angle at which you're shooting. You could approach it from like taking a top to down angle, or the level angle, the mid-level angle, or from below, or even from above. So these are some of the things. You see this happen a lot in movies. So one way that you can really improve your visual intelligence, so to speak, or your visual vocabulary, is to watch movies and pay attention to the framing, pay attention to the way the cinematographer is filming the scene. If you watch Quentin Tarantino movies, if you watch movies by other very well-renowned movie producers, they have signature shots. Some of them shoot from top down, some of them shoot from a different angle, from behind. So these are all the things that you can begin to employ or put into your photography that will help you to really make your pictures stand out. And the last tip I'll give is, don't be afraid of editing your photos. A lot of phones nowadays, even if it's just phone photography you do, have very capable editors that make life simple and easy for you. So you don't really have to be a Photoshop guru. You don't really have to spend time in Photoshop, creating layers and doing all these crazy things. Some of the simple things you can do in editing that will make your pictures pop is cropping. Learn how to crop, like I said in the earlier point. Learn how to crop your images. Learn how to position your subject very well in the frame. In fact, sometimes when I go out to shoot events and I have a batch of pictures to edit, all I just focus on is cropping and balancing the horizon. So where I see a tilt that I don't like, I tilt it and make sure that it's well balanced. And then I crop and reposition my subject in the frame, either to fit into the rule of thirds or place the person directly in the center. Any way that I make the subject really stand out and become the main character in the picture. Things like color, just boosting the saturation a little bit or reducing it as the case may be, and things like white balance and reducing highlights and shadows. Those are basic editing techniques that you can do, and most phone editors have those basic sliders. So whenever you take your pictures and you have them on your phone, just run through quickly and begin to tweak these things. These phone editors have become so advanced that you can just save the changes you made and apply it to the next one. You can do that on the desktop too, Lightroom, Photoscape, and other ones. You can do batch editing. So just put your pictures together. If you know you like a certain tone or feel or color grade, you just apply it on all your pictures. Adobe Lightroom Mobile is a very useful editor because you can save your edit as a preset, and then a lot of these editors have already existing presets. So find your favorite one and just save it, and once you have your pictures, just apply it, and your pictures will begin to stand out. So these 3 or 4 tips I gave are really quite simple, and this video is not meant to be long. I just wanted to quickly drop these tips in case you're out there wondering how to improve your photography skills or improve the quality of your images. Don't forget to always wipe and clean your lens, whether you're using a professional DSLR or mirrorless camera or your phone. It's a very common mistake. Dirty lenses lead to unclear images. And then the second thing is to master the art of composing and framing your shot. Make sure that every picture is telling a story. Make sure that every picture has a main character, a main subject. And then 3, learn how to balance your pictures. Don't be afraid of editing. You don't have to be a Photoshop guru. Just little minor tweaks and edits can make your pictures pop. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you in the next one.